anything larger than probably about a chicken, maybe even I guess a goose or a duck could fit into the small side. It's not something you're going to want to feed for a major part of their diet. I'm going to give you some horror stories a little later on about mistakes we've made, a bunch of other people have made, because we tried to feed it as the primary portion of our animals' diets. And we learned the hard way that that wasn't too smart to do. So there'll be and then finally kind of a conclusion section. So again, back to it. Today we're going to talk about what is it. We're going to talk about how you get into it. Next week we're going to talk economics. We're going to talk about livestock feeding thoughts. We're going to talk about system design. That'll probably be a couple weeks on system design. We're going to talk about system operation. Maybe 2 weeks, but probably a week. Then another, probably less than a week on livestock feeding and how you feed it. And then we'll have 1 week at the end on conclusions. So I'm going to really start with something I haven't started on very many of the other sessions, because I do a lot of sessions on aquaculture. And this is aquaculture. You are growing plants in water. They don't have soil. There's no soil in this system. And so this is a form of aquaculture, but it is specific to livestock feeding, the way that we're growing it. So really, why should you listen to me? Why do I have any authority on this topic? Why is this something that you should even think about, that I could teach about? I'm going to give you a few reasons. The first one is that I'm a kind of a 40-plus year PhD scientist. Now, not 40 years old. I wish I was. I'm 64, and that means that for more than 40 years, I've been a PhD. I actually got my PhD rather young at 24, and so for a little over 40 years, I have worked as a researcher and a developer and a teacher, an educator, on the environmental and in different environmental areas, and more importantly, sort of a practical way, making money, making the planet better, showing people how to make money with those ideas. We call that economics. And I've really done it kind of since my adolescence. And I need to tell this story because it's really important. It's really why I do this. And I'm only doing it not so much to give you a whole lot of insight, but you need to know why it is you might want to do microgreen fodder or any of these topics that we talk about. And I know William today got into at least a little bit of the meat of his presentation on permaculture and being a permaculture apprentice, someone brand new. In the last 3 weeks leading up to this, 3 sessions, he laid a context for that. He told about himself, why he was doing what he's done, and how you should think about it. And people got upset. They said, not a lot, but a few people said, hey, I thought I was going to learn all the specific details, and I want to know exactly how you plant corn with beans and with something else. Well, he said, I'm going to get to that, but this is a course. I need to teach all the important things in order. And the reason that this is important is that you understand why just about this topic I have some value, is that it's new. The research in this topic really only started in 2003. It started in Australia. It started because they had a drought. Literally, their livestock farmers and ranchers were having to butcher cattle, kill sheep because they didn't have any water. They didn't have any hay. It was a horrible situation. And so rather than just give up and just get out, and some of them didn't have any options if they got out, a lot of people started to research what were some feeding alternatives. What else could they do? This was one topic that came up. That's only 13 years ago. And in a scientific area, think about where the light bulb was 13 years after Thomas Edison invented it. It was in the late 1870s, early 1880s. That was still before 1900. There probably weren't 5% of the cities in the world that even had light bulbs yet. That was 20 years later. The automobile. The first automobiles were built also in the 1880s. It wasn't until the 1910, the teens, that Henry Ford and others started to more mass manufacture. And still, my mother was born in 1916.